Welcome to this week's episode. It is my honor to be your host, Dr. Katie Williams, with Dr. Williams LLC and the Dr. Williams podcast. If you want to keep this show up and running, please take a moment to follow the show, leave a rating and a review, and share it with somebody that you think would enjoy listening. This show is about highlighting what I consider to be the most valuable form of communication. And it's something we all have, whether we're tapped into it or not. That is intuition. Let's jump right in and see how today's guest utilizes their unique ability to tap into their intuition and how they use it to serve others. Make sure to listen to the end to find out how you can work with today's guest. I'm here today with Aneta Mruz, and her business is called Solace. She's a transformational life coach. She's also a medium and a channel. And that's what we're going to be focusing on right now. We're going to have a reading. I'm excited and I'm ready to jump into it. But first, Aneta, would you please introduce yourself to the audience? I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much. I'm super stoked.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, so I'm excited to do this reading. I started doing readings when I had a dark night of the soul, and I was actually diagnosed with a mental disorder. But it turns out that the energies I was feeling around me was a little bit more than just what was going on, chemically. And I realized that all energy is just a communication of information, which really took me into channeling and doing energy readings and doing mediumship. So this is what I started with my company Solace, and it's life coaching, but it's a lot of soul guidance. And that's what I call it. I call it a soul guidance session, really.
It really is an interesting way for you to come into what I consider to be your gifts. These are your intuitive gifts. And I think a lot of mental health actually has to do with intuitive gifts. So that's kind of in my wheelhouse. But for now, we will just do the reading. Can you tell me kind of what to expect or if you need anything from me?
Definitely. So what usually happens in a reading is I'm a clairvoyant, so I pick up energetically information energetically via my clear senses. So I'll see in my mind's eye. I will hear in my quote unquote mind's eye, not externally audibly, I guess you can say. I get confirmations of like a yes through just energy throughout my body. So goosebumps. So if I ever feel something is important for you to be aware of, I will share that with you that I just received a confirmation. Sometimes being an intuitive empath, a lot of my emotion centers are opened up. So I'll connect to emotions that you might be feeling, might have felt, and I'll share that with you. I'll probably go into actually experiencing the emotion, and it's just communication. And I'll share that with you. Sometimes if I cry, that is like this is it. That is like source saying, this is pivotal. You just shifted something. Keep going down this road, things of that nature. And I will also share this with you. And I tend to interpret, but also, all of it's interpretation, but also communicate how I interpret so that I believe we're all intuitive. I believe we all channel. So that kind of helps the sitter, the individual, understand intuitively how it all matches up, if you can say. So all I really need from you is just, if we were to sit in a session, I usually ask my clients, what is your intention for the session? What brought you here? What do you feel like your higher self is asking you to gain clarity on? And that is the energy we focus on.
Okay. So usually when I do these for the podcast, I like to leave it open. I'm kind of just like we'll see what comes through, because I don't usually have a really clear focus. But something has happened since you and I set this up, and I'm kind of curious to get some guidance on it.
Yeah.
There is a local business that my husband is connected to. This is actually more for my husband than it is for me.
Okay.
And I thought that I would do this just kind of like offer some variety for the audience, because usually I do leave it open. So my husband is a very hard worker. He is good at everything. I call him my John of all trades. And he is very valued in employment. Like if he's working for somebody, people appreciate him working for them because he's that kind of guy. And yet he doesn't really have like a clear direction about what he wants to do.
Okay.
He just follows these career paths as they lay out in front of him, and he is the provider for our family, and he takes care of us. So it's very important for him to stay employed. But what happened was somebody he knows well is selling their business, and we considered buying it. This would be a huge change for John, for our whole family, and it comes with some risk. So he's feeling kind of apprehensive about it.
Okay.
So he feels like he's made a decision about it, but I sense with my own intuition that maybe it's still something that's kind of bubbling.
Okay.
And there is, if you're going to do mediumship, there is one person who's in non-physical who I thought that I would like to connect with. And his name is John Freitas, but he goes by Big John. And he's connected to my husband. They're not actually related, but he was like a father figure to him.
Okay. Okay. So I just want to start by saying, so as you speak, I channel. So as you speak, I receive. And I receive by understanding the energy that you're relaying. Prior to you speaking, I wrote down the word business and I underlined it, which is actually underlining it is significant and importance. If I put it in a box, it's usually like a block. If I circled it, it's usually like, this is it. So this is an important part of your husband's, like you said, your husband's name is John.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. I just put a box around John.
Okay.
Which tells me it's almost like he is his own block. He is his own. So the mind is coming in a lot. And the words that I wrote down, I will doodle, I'll write down words. I wrote down the word wood and logs. I saw this in my mind. I saw wood for some reason, and I'm not sure if this is related. What happens if you don't know what it means and I don't know what it means? We circle back around to it by the end of the session, or it might be foreshadowing, it might be foresight, something that will come into his awareness or your awareness in the future. And
Okay.
what spirit usually does is tries to allow you to have an experience. Like when that comes into your reality, you will have this usually like this aha moment, or like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And that's for you to experience, to further deepen your belief about energy and energy communication, if that makes sense. Does the word wood or log mean anything to you?
In relation to John, the only way that I can think there's a connection is that he loves log homes. And so not business related, really.
Okay.
But he owned a log home before, and he loves that style. He's always appreciating that when we drive around. He would love to live in that again.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think of. But the business is not wood or log related.
Okay. So what that actually tells me, okay, there's so much guidance coming through for him. So this is the way life works. And I'll put this as simply as I possibly can without taking up too much time. When we come to have earthly experiences as human beings, we have an ethereal support system, and that consists of those individuals that we have relationships with here on earth. I truly believe that because the personality is so multifaceted, we sometimes can't see or perceive things beyond our level of awareness. So what gift do we have? We have individuals in our lives that are in relationships with us that can help us kind of expand our awareness, help us see things differently through different lens, through different light. They push us, they guide us to things that our ego mind will not allow us to see otherwise, right? You, our significant others are the biggest guide to walking this life together. Okay. So there's so many things that are coming to me intuitively, just the mere fact that you have this podcast, that you have so much guidance coming in for you and for him. And that will bleed into your life also. When I say bleed, it's not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. It will ripple, like a ripple effect, right? What that is all received intuitively, which tells me it's always cause and effect. Because I put a box around John's name, that means that there's something that needs his attention, but he's not willing to. And this is the thing, it's not his conscious willingness. Our conscious willingness to grow, expand, see, change, shift is always present, right? If we're choosing growth and change, it's always present. The unconscious habits kind of take over, right? So the subconscious mind, the fears kind of take over. So it's not that he's not consciously choosing to expand. He knows his worth and his value, right? He knows that. But what I'm hearing is trust. And trust has a lot to do with trusting the unknown, the unseen, the what ifs that come up in life. So when I said he might be his own worst enemy, that has everything to do with trusting the guidance versus the logic.
Yeah.
It means that he's allowing, and I'm just hearing fog. It's as though like he's allowing the fog of thought to stand in his way from fully receiving the true guidance of this is it. This is it. And even as I'm saying, this is it, it is like this. Oh, I'm asking, as I'm speaking, I'm also asking, like, what does is this it mean? Does it mean like this is the business that he's supposed to go down? And that's not the guidance. It's the experiences that we cultivate in life that bring us to the best version of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So if we believe that everything's for us, we can gravitate towards having each experience expand us in a certain way. And I feel as though this is something that is definitely for him to explore. But the biggest guidance here is not even about the business. It's about how he makes his choices in life. Okay. Does that make any sense to you as I'm sharing this?
Yeah. Okay. We talked a little bit, and I was encouraging him to kind of tune in and get his own guidance, because I believe that as well. And he's not as spiritually focused as I am, and he listens to me, and I think he does actually give it effort and tries to do that. He is just, the money aspect is such a strong stressor for him, and I have that as well. That's why I'm really trying to get my business going so I can offer him some freedom, because he's always been this pillar for me of support, and I want him to be able to explore and figure out what he wants and go for it. Like, I want to support him too. But right now he can't even allow himself to go there if there's risk. Okay. Because he has this financial responsibility to take care of his family.
Okay. Okay. So I want to circle back around to something that you said in the beginning. And this goes deeper into like belief systems, because in the beginning, what caught my attention energetically was that you said something along the lines of like, he needs to keep working, or something along the lines of that same energy of he needs to. So whether you're saying that because it's something that you believe, this has a lot to do about you also and expanding. This has so much to do about you and expanding. he feels that pressure, although it is not intentional. What it actually is, like the energetics of it is fear. So it's not even pressure from you. It's not even pressure on himself. It's the fear of, right? And when we allow the fear of, and the thing is, it's always an illusion, distortion, assumption, something that the mind creates that it's a could be, like it could happen, right? But it hasn't, right? And we're letting something that's invisible or unseen or undetermined yet govern our choices. It is like, I'm just hearing a recipe for disaster. So let's just say, and that's not precognition into this is going to be a disaster. I don't, that has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the best choices that we can make is not through the energy of fear. Because when we're energetically giving our attention to fear and fear-based thought and fear-based assumptions or illusions or distortions, we're growing that fear. And not only are we growing that fear, but it's almost like we make it inevitable that we will have an experience in our life come in, and then we will experience that fear, because that's where our awareness is. That's what we're vibrating off of, right? So, but let's say you make a choice, and it has everything to do with his or your vibrational state, I guess you can say, when we're moving towards something we do want versus something we don't want. It's a whole other story, because then our perception of whatever experience that comes into our reality, and I know where this is going, that comes into our reality is completely shifted. We no longer have that fear. We no longer have that perception that it's a bad thing. Our state of awareness has expanded, right? So we're no longer in that paradigm. We're no longer in the paradigm of fear because we didn't choose something out of fear.
Right.
Where this is taking me is truly just, it almost feels like the recognition of either you recognizing that any choice he makes in life, if he keeps giving his energy to the, like, making decisions out of fear, his perception of anything that might come into his life will always gravitate towards a reaction due to the perception of it being a negative, I guess you can say, quote unquote negative, if that makes sense. So let me ask you this. How is his, like, what are his thought patterns, thought habits? Is he one to always say, let's say something comes up, does he gravitate towards saying, okay, but I worry about, or does he not give mind to the possibilities or the worries?
So with this situation specifically, the idea and the discussion around purchasing this business and the career change for him was very exciting at first.
Okay. Oh,
He would,
interesting.
yes. It was stimulating, and he wanted to talk about it, and he was talking to other people about it, and he kind of was in this, could this be the thing? He talked to the business owner. They talked about how that would all work out. And then the doubt crept in.
Okay.
He tends to be a more positive person.
Okay.
It's just where money is concerned where I see him fall into that stress factor for the most part.
Okay. When you were saying this, and thank you for sharing that with me, I wrote down the words being big. And even with you sharing, like, it was exciting at first. And I have to say, guidance is actually neutral. Guidance is pretty neutral. When we feel excitement, that's like the personality opening up to possibilities, endless possibilities. And that's the personality's reaction to what could be, right? Which is very guiding because there's endless possibilities. So many beautiful things can happen, right? But the thing is, we are the creators of our own reality. So shifting back into the fear, like I was shown that he doesn't want to make this a pattern, right? That is very important. And this is just something that he can be aware of in reflection of what happened, like all the excitement, right? And then all of a sudden the fear comes in, which I mean, fear manifests itself in many different ways, but it's always a manifestation of something that we're carrying from within. It's never anything external. And when I wrote down the words being big, it had me wonder. And this is where like Aneta, my personality, comes in, and I'm like, I'm wondering, but also this could have been an intuitive hit because sometimes intuition comes through. You think it's you, but it's actually a channeled message, if that makes sense. So you tell me what you feel when I state this. It's as though something presents itself to you and it's like you feel what it could be. And it has you so excited because you're ready for that big change, right? And then fear creeps in. And what it's actually doing is disallowing you from being as big as you can be, as happy as you can be, as, oh my gosh, I'm getting a lot of confirmation, as in charge as you can be. The role of being the caretaker, provider, everything that he actually desires, right? There's some fear behind that. And I believe it's subconscious, because and this is the thing, these are things that we are supposed to break free from, these patterns. And I wrote down the word pattern, so I don't know if this has been a pattern in his life. Just like, I'm just asking if there's been other situations where, he's gotten excited about something and then fear crept in, but he did it anyways. It's as though like those are opportunities for him to reflect and recognize that like that excitement is guidance, right? That excitement is guidance. And look what you were able to accomplish because of it. So reflect on it, right? And that will also reprogram the brain, I believe, to trust the intuition versus that fear-based thought.
Yeah.
But it like, if there's any guidance, I'm asking what the main guidance is. It's just to explore the feelings around being big, being like, I don't know why I just keep saying being big.
Okay. Well, let me speak to that because
Sure.
when you were speaking about that, about the excitement, about the stepping into being all these different roles, I felt like you were reading me. And I don't know, is that something that could have happened, that you were picking up on my energy? I'm the big thinker. I'm the one that has the grandiose ideas for our life. And John loves that I think that way, but he grounds me. He brings me down because he's more in that logical, realistic mindset where I'm the dreamer and the law of attraction, like I can create what I want, so I'm going to go big kind of person.
Okay, so it could be both of you. With him, it's different. With him, I feel as though it's the pattern that unfortunately society puts, and I'm getting kind of like yes, but no. It's not you, okay? But the thing is, we play off of one another's energies, right? Because let's say that you're sitting here dreaming all these big, big things, right? In turn, that could somehow trigger him into, energetically, he's not picking up what you're giving off, in the sense of usually when we communicate like our desires or dreams or passions, it doesn't mean that my husband has to make all this happen.
Right.
But the thing is, I do sense like through society, it is the role of the man to be the caretaker, the finance,
The provider.
things like the provider, things like this. So it's this narrative, you know what I mean? And the thing is, you can sit here, and I was about to say, just tell him, like, you don't need to do all of this for me. But the thing is, they stop me because you saying that won't actually do anything. It's something inside. It's something inside that it's as though it's your energies are playing off of one another. And the thing is, this is beautiful. It is beautiful because it's all guidance. And if we can clearly see the dance of the energy of what he might be guiding you to do and what you might be guiding him to do energetically, then we can heal ourselves like that, right?
Yeah.
But as you go on, I mean, this life is all encompassing of guidance, but it's really just doing the self-reflection and seeing, what is this trying to teach me right now, right? And I can tell that's something that you do, right?
Yeah.
And you dream big for big reasons, because these are things you are supposed to experience. All these desires, all these goals, you're supposed to experience them. And I do believe that you will. I say that without any hesitation. Oddly enough, the only thing that is keeping me from saying it for your husband is his fear of it. Is his fear of, I just keep coming back to this, of being big. So do you see how life, and I'm getting confirmation for that, do you see how life is going to mirror back to us, especially in our significant other, our big fears? You want all these things because you know you deserve them, and you know the energy you're going to feel when you experience them, right? But on the other hand, you have someone that also wants these big things for himself and for you, but something inside of him really fears it.
Yeah.
And that's keeping him from like breaking through that glass ceiling. Do you know what I mean?
You know, I'm sensing some things over here, and I'm coming to some realizations that I never even considered. The fact that my big dreams and thoughts that I'm so excited to share with him are actually daunting to him, because he feels like he has to make it happen for me in order for me to be happy. And that realization, I feel like, is big for me. I felt it in my chest, and it was kind of a aha moment for me, that when you said to communicate to him, you don't have to do this for me, and I know they stopped you, but I feel like that would be useful for him to know that these are the dreams I'm dreaming, but I have intention on making it happen.
Yeah. And yes, and I did hear you react, and those are like those perspective shifts. And I believe that's where patterns break. That's where healing happens, realignment occurs. So if you come from that place and you share with him exactly what you want to say, he will feel it from that energy, right? And he will receive it so differently. And I know, oh my gosh, this is when I get so excited because I feel like crying. You need to have that conversation, because it almost feels like a burden is like lifted off of him. And this is the thing, because when you were saying that, I heard that it's important for you to communicate. These are things I want to build for myself, because there is no greater growth than having created all of these things for myself, right? You dream big because it's not the destination. It's truly the experiences you go through that get you there. And that is what your soul wants. That's what your soul wants to experience. So I know you said he's not like too spiritual, but
Would you like a solo hindsight episode related to this specific reading? If you do, send me an email at hello@drwilliamspodcast.com. And all you have to put in the email is hindsight and the kind of reading or my guest's name, and I'll know which one you're interested in. As I produced the Intuitive Wonderland, time went on before I actually launched it. So I have a unique perspective on each of these readings and how they played out in time. Most of these readings were recorded a year ago in the past. So I can offer my insight into the information that was provided to me and how the information has played out in time in my life. If this is something you're interested in, I'm happy to share that with you. Please send me an email and let me know. All right, let's get back to the reading.
I feel as though if you share it in those terms, he will even feel less of, because I can only imagine him saying, yes, but you're burdening yourself. You're working too much. You're doing this, you're doing that. And I feel bad that you're doing this, right? So the more you work, the last thing we want is for him to feel guilt for that.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with him internally, right? But we don't want to trigger that. So if we can even heal that at the same time, then he will be so untriggered when you are working really hard, when you invest your energy into new endeavors, so that he doesn't feel like he has to make up for it. I'm seeing a lot of, even in your future, I'm seeing a lot of stillness. And this is the thing, the stillness, that energy feels very much like you don't have to do too much. You don't have to work too much. You don't have to overwork, things like this, right? And I just released a big sigh of air that usually feels like a release. So I don't know if this is like an assumption that someone might have, that you have to work to make all this money so that you can live a life of freedom at the end. You will live that life of freedom at the end where both of you are not grinding, right? So there's something with that also, and it's usually like an assumption or an illusion, and that might be something that's tying him. Because if he is grounded, that's amazing that he's grounded and that he does use logic, right? Logic is very important. But the thing is, when we're making choices, big life choices, it's intuition that matters, right?
I agree.
So it's as though, yeah, I just like it oddly, this is the way, the like beautiful way spirit works, because this higher self comes through and like he's just having me feel such like I just saw this and like no worry, as though he has like released a lot of expectations of him that were never even there.
Oh,
That were never even there, especially not by you, right? And I think the fact that towards the beginning I mentioned illusions, distortions, assumptions, I think we unintentionally allow the mind to cater to those things.
Yeah.
And it's such a disservice, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure you have tools to help him even with that, like little nuggets. Like I just see you throwing like little nuggets towards him, like, hey, that kind of sounds like, an assumption and anything can happen. You know what I mean? Like little things like that to help him center and ground back, because he is actually very grounded. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to speak to that a little bit and offer some clarity. And then since we're getting low on time, I'm hoping that we can maybe connect with John Freitas, just because I mentioned that in the episode. So when you were talking about this assumption about working hard, that has been at play. And recently with our boys, we have 2 young ones, 7 and 5. And I'm raising them to believe that money comes easily, because that's what I want their life to be like, because I understand how law of attraction works, and I don't want them to create a block before they get out there.
Yeah.
But John, when I'm doing this, he has some resistance in that because he wants them to understand that he's working hard to make all this money, which they then are spending. And he wants them to understand that, no, it's my hard work. It's me going to work that is creating this life that you guys are living. And he wants them to appreciate that labor.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of resistance in that way of parenting that has come up just based on our own ideals of money.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. You know, the word that came up, just even, so words have energy also, and it's because of society. So hard work, which is valued, right? But also there's a negative connotation about that you have to grind, right? So even they removed the term hard. I mean, how does that even sound? Hard, right? Like it's hard.
Yeah.
With dedication. Like if you can say it's my dedication, like that is so powerful. Imagine,
I agree.
I want to cry again. So it's just these little reframes. Like even if you asked him, how about we teach our children that dedication? Because that's the same thing as that's what he means, right?
Yes.
That's what he
Yes.
means, but he's using the wrong term. And I think it's like kind of, it's probably irritating you because that's not what you believe, but at the same time, he really means dedication.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of
Thank you for
course.
that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That's definitely something I'll talk to him about.
Yeah, definitely. I think that'll go over really well. And it'll
Yeah.
actually shift his wheels. It will shift his wheels also. But so I'm sorry, did you want to add something else or?
I just wanted, since I mentioned it,
Yes.
I wanted to bring in your mediumship and see if we can speak with John Freitas. And since this is the one person that John would really love to go to for advice, and he can't because he doesn't know how to tune in to John's energy, I figured since you're here and readily available, if there is a message that Big John has for John, or even for his son Johnny, I'm either way, just wanting to kind of connect with him.
Okay, I do have to tell you that as soon as I connected to his energy, just the energy of his name, I felt so much sadness, but it wasn't John Freitas' sadness, it was your husband's.
Oh, yeah.
And it is like, I'm hearing words like crippling. It makes me feel, when spirit makes me feel like this, it means that there's still grieving going on, that healing has not happened, that this is on, like they're showing me the back of his head, which means like the back of the mind, I'm assuming, unless that has something to do with his death, that it's on your husband John's mind constantly. This is bigger than what it appears to be. This is one of those things that has individuals question existence, life after death, God, love, why. I'm just getting all these energies of like just not understanding. And even as I'm speaking, it is just making me mad. It's making me really mad. So I am going to assume it was a sudden death. Was it sudden?
No.
Unexpected, I guess you can say.
He got sick.
Okay.
And then it kind of progressed quickly.
Okay. I got, this was before the call stopped, and that's interference. And that to me symbolically means like John Freitas has been trying to communicate with your husband, but your husband doesn't allow it.
Okay.
Do you see how that can manifest into, it's such guidance. It's just such guidance. And in the sense of, like I said about the conscious mind, the personality can want so many things, but if there's fear underneath, and if there's something holding us back from receiving, you're either, this is how I see life, you're either choosing to receive or you're choosing not to receive. Like it's as simple as that.
Yep.
And I feel as though if we are not hearing the guidance, if we are not going towards the path of healing, towards the path of grieving. So I said the word grieving twice here. So let's just talk about his grieving process when losing John. He's not, obviously you said he's not related, but right when you were saying that you wanted to connect with someone, the word grandfather, I wrote that down. So this could just mean that his grandfather, I'm not sure if John's grandfather is passed, but there's a grandfather energy that's also trying to come through. But I do just want to focus on John Freitas. What is your husband's grieving process and going through this? Because is this, it feels like it doesn't, this, I'm getting like so many mixed, because I feel like it just happened, but at the same time, I could be interpreting it this way because his feelings about it are so strong. And the way that his feelings are about it so strong makes me feel like it just happened. Okay. Because it feels as though he's not through that certain stage of grieving, meaning he stopped himself right there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm a little surprised that there is so much emotion behind it. I mean, I knew how much he cared for him, but it hasn't been expressed.
Yeah.
So it's something that is definitely being suppressed. That he was obviously sad the day that John transitioned, but it wasn't like an overwhelming grieving, like how I would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, emotions. Gosh, it's as though like he doesn't want to feel. Usually when someone passes and family, individuals, friends, what have you, go through the grieving process, every aspect of their life has to do with every other aspect of their life. So he is the way that he is because of certain things that happened to your husband, John, in life. But they also, this is like, he's going to go through like a really big turning point in expressing his emotions. So I'm not sure if your husband, John, is a man that doesn't express his emotions, like ever. I don't know. It feels as though it's difficult for him to really dig deep. And this is the thing. It feels like good emotions he can express, but
yes.
the bad ones,
you got it.
Okay, yep. The bad ones, he's not comfortable visiting because they're scary.
Yeah.
Right? Which tells me in childhood, it did not feel good to feel certain things. There's a lot coming up. So this is what happens with spirit, and this is the type of medium that I am. Like I said in the beginning of our call, relationships are for us. The people that we have in our inner circle here in life, John Freitas was like a father figure to John, right? As you mentioned, with much purpose. He was supposed to make such an impact in John's life, your husband, John, that this is supposed to catapult him into like opening up, like my chest, like in my mind's eye, I just see my chest opening up, and that's the heart center. So not only do people here on earth in life have a deep meaning in all of our evolution and expansion, we are so interconnected that John Freitas's death is for John. I know that sounds bizarre, but this is an experience that he is supposed to, I feel like vomiting. I feel like a lot of burping is coming up, which tells me one of two things, that this is going to be something that he does not want to do. Because if I'm talking about him needing to grieve this, that means he's actually going to touch on things from his childhood that did not feel good. So those very first sets of emotions, right?
Yeah.
But he needs to feel those to release them. And as much as this is about John Freitas, it's our loved ones, when they cross over, there's tons of different types of mediums. Since I started being a transformational life coach, offering soul guidance, it's as though these loved ones that come through for whomever I'm sitting in front of, they are here to offer their loved ones here on earth soul guidance to get them to their most optimal timeline.
Yeah.
The timeline where they are free of all burden, where they can be their truest and highest self, right? And this is what John Freitas wants for him. He, it's odd because I'm hearing he needs him to do this. He needs him to do this. He needs to experience these emotions so that he can free himself. Because I'm getting that, like, he's living like a shell of him, like a version, like, I don't know, I'm getting like a shell. Maybe he has like a metaphorical shell around him. Protection, right? That makes me think of protection. But okay, so it's just also connected. It's also connected. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm having an emotional response to this, and it's not even about me. It's just,
Yeah.
I feel like you're really touching on something that is deep within him. And I'm also feeling like I'm not gonna be able to share this because it's so like vulnerable for him, and I might have to cut parts of this out. But I think that you are onto something very important and
Okay.
and something that I feel like I've been trying to guide him towards. Yeah. And he is offering some resistance. Can I ask you,
Of course.
Do you have any guidance for me on how I can help with that?
Yes. So this actually came through. I heard approach it lightly. So the fact that I was even like feeling it's expression. When I feel like burps coming up or vomiting, it's energy moving. It's actually energy moving. So it's actually his energy trying to release, but it tells you how thick it is, how heavy it is. So you approach that with love and care, right? Which I know you probably already do so well, or else you wouldn't be the one that's in his life, right? When you said, like, I probably won't be able to share this with him, I actually heard, like, maybe she shouldn't share this with him first. Like, first approach it gently.
Okay.
And I'm literally I'm sitting here asking for guidance. I'm hearing like it will all come to fruition. So this is the thing. When I just heard that, that means he's going to see how interconnected it all is.
Okay.
So it has to do with, I'm hearing the word grieving. So the way that you can approach it is you knowing what you know about the human psyche and about, mind, thought, everything. There's different stages of grieving, right? Yeah. I'm sure he's aware that there's different stages of grieving, but the thing is that he has stopped himself in some sort of like bracket, like some sort of area. And energetically, that's living inside of him. And it needs to flow, it needs to move, it needs to be released. You can approach it from a way of, does he believe that if we allow things to sit within us, it can fester into, things that are unfavorable for like the human body, for the human mind? It feels as though, okay. So you know how in the beginning I said you don't usually want to focus on what you don't want. You want to focus on what you do want. If you approach it from a place of, instead of you need to grieve, you need to feel these emotions, that's pointing him to everything he doesn't want, right? Okay. So when you turn it, and I'm getting confirmation this will help. And this is the thing, you don't need to know what to say. You will channel it right in the right time. But focus on the good, the freedom he can have. The ability to connect deeper. I know that you said you have children. Even these things, like to have, like, I'm hearing flourishing relationships, pure joy in a completely different paradigm of happiness, contentment, the things that he does want. And this is the thing, this is why you would focus on that, because that's something his soul's always guiding him to experience. Meaning that if the soul is guiding you energetically, it's going to manifest to thought, right? So these are thoughts he is actually entertaining in his mind of the what ifs of the good stuff in life, right? So you'll speak to that, the things that he's already thought about, right? And he will see how it's all connected. He will see, it's as though they're showing me like, but if I want this, then I really have to grieve. I really have to grieve. And it's his own realization that brings him to do it. But you definitely can focus on the things that he could have without even mentioning, but it happens through grieving, but the things that he could have in whatever conversation or dialect you feel guided to share at whatever given point in time. We usually want to share it when someone's in like a high vibrational energy.
Right. Yeah. Receptive.
Yes. So.
Okay. I'm going to have to ponder on that. I mean, nothing's coming to me that's real clear about how I can approach that and talk about John, specifically John Freitas, in a way that kind of promotes positive feelings while allowing for grief. You have something to say?
Yes, because I didn't even feel as though the first conversation is going to even be about John Freitas.
Okay.
I felt it's going to be about your husband, John, and the good that he can have, right?
Okay.
So, and I'm about to birth. So I feel like that is just confirmation to me that things will be released and moved. All you want to do is get the wheels spinning, right?
Okay.
And then the next conversation could be about John Freitas and what he meant to him and all the good things about him.
Okay.
You kind of get his energy focused on John Freitas, because I really do feel like you don't have to connect the dots to him. He will connect the dots himself.
Okay.
Right? If that makes sense.
Yes.
And then this video, I mean, the thing is, you can share this video, but I feel as though that conversation, I feel like this is going to be something, this was for you mostly.
Okay.
Because you are here to help guide him in life. And like I said, help him see the things that he doesn't allow himself to see, right? You're his guide here on earth, and vice versa. So this is something that he can watch afterwards. And all those things that I said, like this death really symbolized all these questions and all these, and the thing is, when someone talks or doesn't talk about their beliefs about life, existence, God, death, afterlife, the soul, it's not because they don't want to. It's usually more so like this fear of not being understood. For that, especially when you have someone facing you who is wide open to all of that, right? So if he feels understood by you, no matter what, then that will open him up to sharing more about his thoughts. And I bet you anything, you are going to find that your viewpoints are more similar than dissimilar. They just come from different perspectives.
Okay.
Right? But all those things that I said, like all the grief and the agony and like questioning, it's as though when he goes through this experience, it's interesting because I just like completely shifted and pivoted towards this part of his life. Right now he's here. When he experiences all of it, He's going to reflect, and it's as though like he can watch this video then. He can watch it whenever you feel guided, but it's something he'll come back to, and he's going to think of life differently.
Okay. It's going to be a pivotal moment for him. Well,
yeah.
hence the pivoting.
Right. Oh, yes. That is so interesting. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. Yeah.
So, yes, it's going to be a pivotal moment for him. And it's brought through you. Like you felt guided to have this session, right?
I know. I was just thinking that. Like, I love that when you said this was actually for you. Mm-hmm. And yet my focus was trying to get guidance for him. But it felt so right to have this conversation. And I didn't even consider that I am such an integral part of guiding him, of helping him through anything. Like that wasn't where my mind was, but it makes sense.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And I feel as though like everything is for us. So of course it's for him, but it's for you to like, I guess, expand your understanding of what he's actually going through and things that his higher self wants you to be aware of.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yes, of course. So even though and I mean, his higher self is here. I mean, it's always here, but he's communicating all of these things to you. So when the personality can't speak certain things, the higher self will find a way. And as much as this was John Freitas, this was your husband trying to connect with you and share the things that he can't physically express through his personality due to the grief, due to all these things. I would even open up to knowing that he's always guiding you when his personality can't. So start noticing signs or symbols or things that remind you of your husband, John, and that's him supporting you. And that's also him saying, hold tight, just breathe through this with me. I'll get through the other side, right?
Wow.
I fully know that is already happening. It's just open up to the awareness that that's happening. And that will actually make you feel even more connected to your husband. It really will.
Yeah. In this moment, just realizing that I just connected with him and his higher self is just amazing.
That is amazing. That is so beautiful.
I'm really very grateful. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for allowing me to just facilitate this experience for you. And it brings me a lot of just love. Life is so amazing. Life is so amazing. So,
it really is. Well, okay. I kind of forgot that we were recording there for a minute, but for everybody who's actually listening to this, they might want to know how to find you so that they can have an amazing experience like I just had. Can you tell them all the ways they can reach out to you and work with you?
Of course. So I'm most visible on Instagram, and that's at Center of Solace. And that's Solace, SOLACE. And then I do have a website. So all of my links are in the bio of my Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, not too active on there, but my website will take you to the programs that I have. I have single sessions for mediumship and soul guidance. And as you might have witnessed, one kind of becomes the other.
Yeah.
And that is just the purpose that our loved ones want to work through me facilitating it. One really does become the other. So my website is centerofsolace.com, and the Instagram account is probably the best way to reach me and start following me there. I do have a podcast coming up, and it's called Soul Shift, and that is going to launch in October. So by the time that this episode comes out, it'll
be up and running.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be sharing a lot of just experiences that I believe this topic, just mental health, spirituality, soul alignment, just seeing things from a higher consciousness so that we can truly shift into our most optimal timeline, which I believe we were born to experience.
I agree. Well, and I appreciate that you're here and doing that for the world. Thank you so much for being on the show and for the reading. It was incredible. I feel grateful to know you.
Oh, thank you. That is so sweet. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that we connected.
That concludes today's episode. It is my hope that you found benefit in listening to today's guest and gained a greater appreciation for the guidance of intuition in each of us. If you haven't already, please make sure to follow us on social media under Dr. Williams Podcast. Look within, trust your intuition, and allow yourself to explore all the splendor that it has to offer. This is the Intuitive Wonderland.